What happens when you mix So I Married an Axe Murderer with Scarlet Witch? You get HBO's latest crime drama, Love and Death, which tells the crazy true story of Candy Montgomery, her affair with neighbor Al Gore, true story, and of course...
He has the most perfectly shaped penis I have ever seen.
Okay, maybe not that. While the murder of Betty Gore doesn't take place until halfway through the series, the show's first 3